Recently, there's been a growing discussion about the fact that 47% of Americans don't pay taxes. You tweeted and said, focus on the causes of poverty. Why?
Well, I mean, the president uses the bully pulpit to divide us by saying that the privileged and the wealthy, if only they paid their fair share out of justice and fairness, that our problems would go away. That's a false hope when you consider the fact that 40% of babies brought into the world today will be going back to their house without the father being the husband of the mom. And dad may not even be in the house. And then we expect miraculously these kids to have the capacity to be successful in this incredible world. You know, we have flaws at the core that we're not dealing with. And the debate about politics, about dividing and saying that one group is unfairly taking advantage of the other, is just so un-American in my mind and so incorrect that we ought to be building capacity for people to become successful rather than trying to tell the successful people, shame on you. This is a place where I think the Republicans, not just for president, but across the board, really need to be very proactive and very positive.
Some would say Republicans are un-American in their stance on immigration reform. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice recently said at Duke University, "I don't know when immigrants became the enemy." So how do you change the conversation in a way that appeals to the Republican Party, appeals to Hispanics, which, by the way, the Republican Party needs badly?
Well, first of all, you distinguish between two groups, immigrants and undocumented workers. Illegal immigrants and immigrants, sometimes candidates in their zeal to point out that we have too many illegal immigrants, the message sounds like it's going to a broader audience, and that's just a question of tone, and you can change tone by changing it. I mean, it's not that hard to do if you sincerely understand that tone does matter. The second question is, are we going to allow nativist sentiments to supersede something that is so uniquely American that gives us such vitality and strength, which is a legal immigration system that has proven itself to be perhaps the most noble and most successful part of the American experience. That to me is the troubling part. You can change tone, and the club-footed nature of some of these candidates drives me nuts, but to forget what our strengths are, to ignore in a world that's changing, and it's changing in ways that requires a much more competitive posture for our country, to say we're going to fight this fight with one arm tied behind our back and one leg cut off, basically, it's sad and it's wrong. And so my advice, and I get asked about this way too much, is to change the conversation to a more aspirational message. That the American experience and why it's exceptional needs to be, we need to remind ourselves of it, and that injecting young, aspirational people from all walks of life, from everywhere around the world, that come to embrace American values and pursue their dreams as they see fit, is what America's all about. So we got to get beyond the current conversation, which is a conversation about border control, and move to talking about that, of course, but other things that are powerful for our success as a nation. And I don't know, it's the left uses this as a wedge issue. They cynically think that Hispanic voters will move to them because of the border control debate. The right is missing this powerful tool for sustained long-term economic growth.
You say the direction the conversation took drove you nuts. Did the acrid tone of the debate, did the solution to some of the problems that also arose drive you nuts?
No, I do, and I'm critical of them, and I'm critical of them publicly, and I get booed sometimes when I say these things amongst people. I mean, I'm a conservative. I had the advantage of actually being in public office, and so I can say what I am because it's backed up by what I did, unlike others who now we have this whole group of people that never have to be in public office and they can just opine. And so who knows what they are because they've never actually had to do it. And as a conservative, I think it's ridiculous to send a signal to a group hey, yeah, we'd love to have your vote, but we don't want you to join our club. I mean, that's kind of what I hear when I hear some of this stuff. And so it's bad politics, but it's bad policy as well. I mean, that's the bigger issue. And I think here the Democrats get off the hook. The president, remember, the president was president of the United States with a 60-vote Senate and a commanding control of the House. And what did he do on this subject? What did he do? And the question is nothing. I mean, the answer is nothing. He did absolutely nothing. He broke his commitment. He's completely been missing in action, but he will be the first guy that uses this as a wedge issue politically to once again try to garner support based on what the Republicans haven't done.
Then it comes back to the message and the messenger. The Libre Initiative just recently revealed a study that shows Hispanics overwhelmingly believe that the deficit needs to be reduced, as well as federal spending. The federal government needs to be less intrusive, and many believe that the federal social programs actually weaken the family. It sounds very Republican, but then the next question is, who would you vote for president? And 61% say they would vote for President Obama.
So it is a message question. And if you asked, I'm sure they asked the question, do you think our border should be secure? And Hispanics, as you would think, logic would suggest, I think that the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. So getting beyond the border question and the scowling and the finger pointing on both sides, I think is important. It's important, people focus on the political side of this, but I think America has the potential of being in significant decline. And I love my country, and I know other people do, and they're frustrated that these structural problems aren't getting fixed. And part of the solution that only America has as a tool to be able to solve a problem is a strategic approach to immigration where we inject into our society young, it doesn't have to be young, but young, aspirational, energetic people who believe in American ideals and who re-energize native-born Americans along the way. And the interaction is what makes us who we are. And by not being able to get beyond this current debate, we're missing out on a huge opportunity to reinvigorate our country.
Texas is a state that's near and dear to the hearts of the Bush family, but Democrats have gained ground there. Your eldest son, George P., lives there with his family, and he's described as one of the younger members of the Bush family with political aspirations. Is he taking any political involvement in Texas politics today?
Sure. In fact, he's formed a group called the Hispanic Republicans of Texas that actually is now kind of morphing into a national organization to support and recruit and nurture Hispanic Republican candidates, first in Texas and around the country. And about a month ago, thanks to their work, a Democratic state legislator of Hispanic origin switched to the Republican Party. And there are many Hispanics that are in elected office in Texas. The interesting thing is that when you look at a lot of these political stuff, most of the problems are in Washington. Texas Republicans, most of them recognize the challenge, the demographic challenge they face, and not everybody, but many consider it an important part of the political conversation. So I'm proud of my son George. He's become kind of a national leader in this regard, and my son Jeb here has done the exact same thing with a political action committee to support Hispanic candidates here.
Time magazine recently came out with an issue of the 100